Welcome everybody to the Student Success Unit presents another Career Services webinar. I'm Dr. Deirdre Pickerel. I'm the Dean of Student Success and the Acting Director of Career Services, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all today. Our session today is on finding work by building professional relationships. Our speaker is Natalia Markman, and Natalia is our career advisor based out of the Toronto Film School, but like everybody in our team, we help all students across all programs, all rounds. I'm also really pleased to introduce to everybody Linda Folster, who is our new I was going to say New Brunswick. That's not right. Our BC-based career advisor, and Alexi Verican is based out of our Ontario Yorkville University campus. And so you can see we've got an amazing team here to help you with all of your career exploration and finding work and exploring work opportunities, a whole host of topics. So we are going to have about a 45-minute or 50-minute workshop here for you today, and then we will open it up to questions and answers. We really ask that you use the Q&A screen at the bottom of your panel. I am not going to interrupt Natalia with questions before then, so hold tight. We will get to your questions. Please don't worry about that. And if we can't get to everybody's questions, then we absolutely want to hear from you as students afterwards. We are using a product called Menti today, so if you could have an internet browser, your mobile phone open to the internet, then you'll be able to participate live with some of the questions that Natalia is going to ask you, and she'll explain more about that when she gets there. So in the meantime, I'm going to turn off my camera. I think Alexi and Linda are going to turn off their cameras. We are leaving you in Natalia's very capable hands. Natalia, over to you.
Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you for introducing me. Welcome, everyone. My name is Natalia Markman, and I'm one of the career advisors at Toronto Film School, Yorkville University. And I would like to welcome you all to our second webinar in the series. Today, we will be talking about building professional relationships. And it's an important skill that can help to maximize your chances of getting access to better job opportunities. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here's a bit on my background. I bring 4 years of experience advising clients, primarily in the employment services, in the non-for-profit sector. Prior to my job at Toronto Film School, I was working as an employment counselor for JVS Toronto, and I was primarily supporting newcomers to Canada. And after my job at JVS Toronto, I found another opportunity with Tropicana Community Services, where I primarily worked with multiple youth pre-employment programs, where I had to prepare young people for workforce. I just want to apologize in advance. I'm getting over some cough, so I might mute myself at times to get a sip of my tea. Okay, so just wanted to let you know about that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So it can be very difficult to get your first job or to change your career, and pandemic situation is not making it easier on anybody. There are higher unemployment rates and declining industries, but people are still getting jobs. And the ones who are successful are working very hard to learn about opportunities in ways that you might not expect, and the ways that we are going to be discovering today in this workshop. I'm actually one of those people who found my current job during pandemic, as well as my colleagues on career services team, and many of my friends, family members, and my former colleagues from my previous job places. So people are still getting jobs, and we're going to learn how they do it. I've been in a situation of job searching a couple of times in my life as well, and I was using different approaches to job searching. So actually, my first job I got through my connections. I was doing my placement for a master's program, and I stayed in a really good relationship with my placement supervisor, and she actually recommended me for the JVS job. And after JVS, when I was looking for my 2 other jobs, I was using targeted online research, like most of you do, and it was very time-consuming. It took me a long time, and I was feeling a bit nervous. When am I getting any results out of it? So professional networking is actually a strategy that predates the internet, and it's still the most effective way of finding work. I recently was reading a book by Theodore Dreiser, It's like beginning of 20th century, and there was a young girl who came to Chicago and was looking for work. And what she was doing, she was just knocking on doors of factories and stores and try to find her first job. That was way before the internet started, right? But even though right now we have the internet, it's not always the best tool for job searching. So we're still trying to rely on our connections as the most effective method of job searching. So if you want to be one of those people who is finding work despite pandemic or any other situation in the market, you need to open yourself up to other opportunities, other job search strategies that we're going to be learning about today. Next slide, please. Okay, so I would like to start with a question, actually. So please type on your phone or computer www.menti.com and use the code on your screen 111226 to choose the method that you're using primarily to look for jobs. And I'm going to give you about 30 seconds for that question. Okay, networking. Okay, so responses are coming in. I can see you guys are using very different approaches. Okay, interesting. Okay, so while you continue to respond to that question, responses are still keep coming in. Many people believe that searching for a job online is the best way to finding work. And I was one of those people before. And so many of my clients that I worked with in the employment services, the first question I asked them, how are you looking for a job? And everyone is responding, I'm applying online, right? Nobody's really thinking about other strategies. I can see that some people use other strategies to look for a job, which is amazing. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So actually, studies show that average success rate for this method, so just using internet applications, is only around 4%. According to 2016 LinkedIn survey, 70% of respondents got their job through connections within the company that hired them. So maybe they had a former colleague who recommended them there, or a friend or family member. So somehow they reached out, they used their connection in order to get their job in the company. So 70%, if you compare it to 4, there's a difference, right? So internet is not the best way to find everything you want, but it can help you to lead you in the right direction. And the tips that you're going to learn today are more than just career planning skills. They're actually life skills. Those are the skills that you're going to carry with you through your whole career. And you will find that you can use today's ideas not only for job searching, but for making important career decisions. For example, which jobs to target on the market. And you will learn how to build this connection. So how to plant the seeds for those connections that you can use in the future to look for jobs. Next slide. Thank you. So here's what we're going to be covering today. After a brief introduction to today's topic, so we will be talking about building connections method versus all the other methods. We will talk about a variety of approaches to use networking as a way of generating job leads. And one of those methods is actually to set up an information interview. We will look at different ways to reach out to new contacts, so how to build these new connections. And one of those ways is actually conducting cold calls or to send cold emails. So we are going to be talking about as well. You will also learn about the range of skills that employers are looking for during COVID, because I'm sure many of you are wondering about it, because the market changed and probably changed forever. And how by using those strategies of networking, you will actually naturally cultivate and develop so-called pandemic skills. And we are going to be using this, saying, pandemic skills, because, there's a new set of skills that you need to have on your resume in order to be competitive in the market. Next slide, please. Okay, so very simple question. Use your menti.com website again to respond to that question. Type the code on the screen. Are you familiar with the term hidden job market? Yes or no? You guys started to respond before I even asked the question. Great. Okay, so majority don't really know what sit-in market is. Okay, great. So I'm going to explain what it is in the next slide. So hidden job market is a term that describes phenomenon of unadvertised jobs in the market. So in other words, for every 100 available jobs overall, only 5 to about 30 are advertised online on Indeed, Canada Job Bank, or any other websites that you're using for job search. So if most jobs are not advertised, how do employers fill those jobs, right? In fact, employers use a variety of methods to reach out to their networks first to try to find employees. Why are they doing it? First of all, it's more direct and easier because you don't have to spend time on writing the job post, going through your HR, posting it on different websites. It's time consuming. Also, it's cheaper, so you're not really paying for it. I'm not sure if anybody knows that, but posting a job on websites like Indeed actually costs employer money, and sometimes per click. And when we look for jobs, we click on those job postings all the time. And on certain websites, employers are actually paying for every click that you make. And the direct approach is also far less risky for employers because there is a certain level of trust, right? If you recommend somebody for a job, it's your reputation. So you're probably going to recommend somebody that's going to be a good employee, right? That's why there's some level of trust that comes with the referrals. And I want to talk about how exactly employers are looking for employees versus how employees are looking for work in the next slide. Thanks. So on your screen, you see a pyramid. And on the left side, you can see how employers are looking for a job. And on the right side, how people are applying for jobs, usually. So the most common ways for employers to do their search is by first looking within the organization. So maybe somebody wants to get promoted or somebody, just wants to try and do something else. Maybe they have some maternity leave, covers people who cover for maternity leave or placement students or, any temporary employees, contract workers. It's easier because employer already knows how they're working. They saw them in action. So they trust that, they can reach out to them and interview them. If that doesn't work, and sometimes it doesn't work, maybe it's a smaller organization and not too many people are, available to apply for that job or don't want to move. The second most common approach is to ask your colleagues in your network, if they have anybody to refer to the organization. I did this myself a couple of times, referring people to different organizations. And as I already told you, my placement supervisor actually referred me to JVS Toronto, which is also, using your connections to find work. The third most common approach is to spread the word in their own network. So, for example, my placement supervisor, she went to a conference for social services, and she met the director of JVS Toronto there. So they connected, in a conference environment and just talked about it in an informal conversation. And that's where my placement supervisor recommended me. And that's how it happens many times, right? So next one is actually looking for leads in their professional associations. We're going to be talking about it a little bit more. Deidre, just back one slide. Thanks. And the two least common approaches is to looking for hires through recruitment agencies or employment agencies. And the reason is because they're usually not really working for you. They're working for the, I lost my train of thought. They're not looking at the job search websites because it's a very time-consuming approach because they get 50, 100 different resumes. They have to spend time to look through each resume. They don't know these people as well, so it's very time-consuming and expensive, and we already talked about it. The funny thing that people are usually looking from the top of the pyramid, so they're naturally going to advertisements on job posts or job posts on websites, and the least common approach is actually to look within your organization. And I can provide my own example. When I was switching from one job to another, it was a pretty small organization, so we didn't really have an opportunity for growth. And I was also trying to switch from social services to university setting, which means I had to look somewhere else, right? In a different network, and try to build this network as well. So it's funny, but employers and job seekers are looking for each other, and they're not really meeting in this process. So the best option is actually to use employers' method and start from connections and build it up. Next slide, please. Thanks. So these statistics are actually taken from Forbes article. And 5 worst ways to finding work is actually online job postings. We talked about it a little bit. It's only about 4% success rate. Obviously, if you have an amazing resume, if you're doing targeted research, so you're targeting your resume for each job posting, your chances might be higher, but it's still very time consuming, right? Another unsuccessful method is posting your resume on job board and just waiting for responses. It's very passive, so you're not really going to get any results, immediate results out of it. The other methods, advertising in professional and trade journals, newspapers, believe it or not. I'm not sure if anybody's still reading newspapers, but if you look at the job search section there, the jobs that you're going to see there are usually, survival type of jobs, low-paying jobs. So I definitely not suggest looking at, newspaper ads. And another one is private employment agencies, just because, like I said in the previous slide, they're not really working for the job seekers. They're working for the employer, because employer provides them with a job posting that they need to fill. So, again, competition is huge because people think that they're going to be provided with a job from employment agency. And you actually need to, make an initiative to look for a job yourself to make to find a good one. Next slide, please. Thanks. So again, information is from the same article in Forbes, 5 best ways to find work during pandemic. So many organizations are laying off workers, and I'm sure many of you know about that from your news, or they're reducing their workforce, especially if people can't work from home. It's not that type of environment, but other organizations are actually growing. So one good place is actually to start by researching which industries are actively growing. For example, places like essential retailers, banking and finance, telecommunications, public health, healthcare. Those are all organizations that are actively growing. And, depends on your, the job that you're looking for, chances are you might be able to find something in a few different industries, right? For example, if you're an accountant, you're probably going to be able to find a job in any industry because people need payroll, people need accounting, same with IT, same with graphic design, you might be working for multiple different industries. So start with researching which industries are growing right now. Try to make information interviews. We are going to be talking about how to ask for information interviews and how to build on those connections that you get after information interviews. Because 95% of jobs are not advertised. We already talked about it. So you need to look elsewhere to dig a little bit deeper. Try to add remote-friendly words on your written materials like resume or LinkedIn, because with the pandemic, there are specific skills that all of us should have right now. For example, I remember when I had my interview for Toronto Film School, my current boss asked me, are you familiar with running webinars? And I was laughing because all I was doing since March 2020 is running webinars, because before that, all the workshops that I was doing were in class. And in duration of 1 week, we had to switch, take all of our information and learn how to run webinars, and also to find platforms that will help us with that, and activities that might be helpful for our youth. So, we all had to adjust. And those are some of the skills that you need to make sure to add to your resume and cover letter and LinkedIn to show the employers that, yes, I can do that. Try to monitor employers' social media as well for prospective jobs, because they also adjusted. So now there's a lot of activity going on in social media from employers as well. So look at their posts. If they're posting an article or a job post or something, repost, comment on it, put likes or something. Try to reach out to the recruiters. If they see your name popping up in the feed all the time, they're going to remember you. So you're increasing your visibility. And create job hunt systems and goals. So don't just spend all your time applying online. Like we already talked, it's not really efficient, right? It's only 4% successful. So try to create systems. This day I'm going to apply for that many jobs, and then the rest of the time I'm going to try to set up cold calls. I'm going to try to reach out to employers in any other ways, send LinkedIn requests or something like that. So try to spend your time on different job search activities. Next slide, please. So how does networking happen? We don't really realize that, but we do it on a day-to-day activities, right? You interact with your friends and family or your former colleagues. Even yesterday, my former boss actually reached out to ask how am I doing, if I like my job, if everything is good. And we keep this connection going with our former colleagues or students that we had the same class with, our alumni. We interact through social media, right? So we have Instagrams, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever you guys are using. So we interact through that medium as well. I'm sure everybody heard about 6 degrees of separation. If not, it's basically an idea that all people in the world are connected within 6 degrees of separation. So basically, you can track all your connections to any person in the world, basically. And I'll explain on my personal example. For example, I have a best friend, and she has a couple of best friends in Miami. And this family actually knows Malkin, who is a very famous NHL player, and he plays for Pittsburgh, I think. So I'm sure if any hockey fans are here today, they will know who I'm talking about. So that's the idea, that everybody in the world knows each other for 6 degrees of separation. So you actually can reach out to your friends, can you introduce me to your other friend or family member? And that's how it goes. That's how you can make warm calls. So if you have another person in between you. Where else networking happen? Networking events. Right now, most of those events are virtual. Professional associations, LinkedIn. You can reach out to people on LinkedIn as well. Job interviews. If your interview didn't go well, let's say you weren't hired, reach out to an employer afterwards, right? If they say, you know what, we hired somebody else, but you were really good, so we're going to keep you in mind for our next opportunity. Try to maintain this connection. Ask for an information interview. Ask what you can improve on, right? Ask, like what else I can do to make sure next time I pass my interview. So things like that you do to maintain those connections. Volunteering, your student placements, very important. I got my first job from my placement, and I heard many people who stayed in their placements after completion of their studies. So those connections that you're making is actually your very first steps in the industry. So it's very important to maintain those connections. And mentoring. If you have a mentor or you're reaching out to someone, you talk to them, you build a relationship and you ask them to mentor you on something, that's another connection that might bloom into something else, like a part-time or full-time job opportunity. Next slide, please. Thanks. So some positive aspects of networking. It's efficient and direct. You get results right away. If the person has something in mind, they're going to tell you right away. You don't have to wait for this email back or a call back from the employer when you're just sending your resume. It's fun and social. So you're just leading, informal conversations with people that might be, useful in some way, or maybe you can be useful for them. So it is a reciprocal relationship. Always ask a person how I can help you as well. Maybe I can help you with article writing, or maybe I can volunteer for you. any of those things that you're telling them, it shows that you're ready for additional steps in order to maintain this relationship, and people really appreciate that. It's also a way to stand out. There's a human element, because when you're calling or reaching out to someone and you want to meet with them and you have an informal conversation, they see who you are right away. They see how you behave. They see if you're professional about your job search. If you're applying online, it's just a piece of paper on their screen. There's no human element to it. It's a reality-based research. So when you talk to industry professionals, you can get insiders information about the industry or the job that you're trying to target, right? So looking for this information on internet is good, but internet, it's not the best tool to know every single thing. The person who works in the industry, they know how the regular day to work looks like. They know exactly what you need to have on your resume to impress their employer, right? So all of this is insider's information that you're not going to get anywhere else. It's interesting. So you're building relationships. You're getting something useful out of it for yourself. You're deepening your online learning as well. So if you learn something online, you can back it up with information that the person is providing for you. It might generate leads and jobs, like in the examples I provided you. And it's more relaxed than interviews because you're not feeling interrogated. These are the connections that you're initiating. So you're reaching out, you're setting it up, you're asking questions, etc. So it's all of this feels less formal and less stressful when you do it. And if you think about it as a more natural process, it's gonna, help you to, get in this, get the ball rolling with your information interviews. Next slide, please. So where do we begin? Where do we look for those new connections if you don't have connections in your industry? You can learn about different events that are happening, or you can target individuals. So in terms of events, look at professional associations. Make sure that you sign up for their emails or newsletters. Social media groups, for example, I have a Facebook group with alumni from my master's program. And if anybody comes across a job in the field, we always post it for, people that we're studying with. So we can all, network and access those different job opportunities that are available. Sorry. And the second way, identifying contacts, looking at LinkedIn, other social media, who can we contact with? Our friends and family, we already talked about it, great source of jobs. I'm sure some of you got your first babysitting job or, something like that, for your friends and family. So if you start thinking about it, there's so many connections that you can build out of it. For example, your parent might know somebody else that knows somebody else that works in the industry. So if you go through these connections, you can actually generate some useful connections for yourself. And, that can be a source for referrals. You can look at company websites. So if you go to About Us page or, Meet Our Team page, you can see who are the people that are working there. And then later on, you can actually reach out to them on LinkedIn and send a customized connection. Try to avoid templates because usually, people who get a lot of LinkedIn connections, they're not going to look at templated invite. One thing I forgot to say about events, Eventbrite is an amazing website. I don't know if anybody heard about it, but before the pandemic, they were posting a lot about, actual events, live events that are happening, networking, social events, anything you can think about across the city. And then right now, they obviously switched to virtual. So a lot of content they're posting, about events. It's all virtual opportunities. And there's another website that I want to show to you. It's called hunter.io. And it's really cool. Deidre, can you please switch to next slide? Thanks. So it's a really great website if you're looking for somebody specific. Let's say you went to, Meet Our Team page on some organization's website. You search the person's name. And then if you go to this website, you can actually try to find this person and their work email if you want to contact them to set up information interview. Next slide, please. So that's how it happens. It can search, for example, we have a Yorkville University in search bar. So you would actually see the extension or email address convention used, and you can search by company and the person's name. So if you never heard about this website, write it down because it might be very useful in searching for new connections and setting up information interviews. Next slide, please. So how do we connect? There are a few different ways to reach out in an attempt to connect with your new contact, potential contact. And here are some guidelines if you decide to go with the email. First of all, make sure your subject line is clean and direct. So for example, meeting request for career advice. You can see an example on the screen. Busy professionals get so many emails and they have to prioritize their workload. So obviously, if you're sending an email and your subject line is too long or like unclear on what you want, they're not going to prioritize it. So be straightforward. Your email should contain a hook, so something that draws them in, and also an ask. So why are you writing to them, right? Ask for information interview, ask for 15 minutes of their time to meet with you for providing you some feedback and advice because they want to learn about them and their career path. Never ask for a job because you are a stranger to them. And chances are they're not going to respond to a person who just asks for a job directly. But if you ask them for their opinion or advice or feedback, people are more leaning towards, yeah, why not? Because everyone loves to talk about themselves and their experiences. It's natural. So chances are they're probably going to say yes. And follow up, always follow up, because that's an important aspect of building a new relationship. What if they didn't respond to you? In 7 to 10 days, try to send them another email. Maybe they didn't prioritize it last time and it got lost in their email list. Politely ask again for 15 minutes of their time to just answer a few questions that you might have. And if you were able to secure this information interview, make sure you follow up afterwards with a thank you note. Same as you do after a regular interview, the same thing you need to do after an information interview. Say thank you, and a few months later, try to stay connected. If you see, for example, on LinkedIn, you can see if a person switched jobs or took another course and added on LinkedIn. If they posted an article, try to interact with them. Try to, say happy holidays or, comment on their article that they posted or, maintain connection in any other way. Because if you're not going to follow up in the future, they're going to forget about you. They interact with so many people on a daily basis. So make sure to let them know how their advice helped you in your job searching, right? Because it's going to be rewarding for them. Next slide, please. Okay, so I would like to discuss LinkedIn connection request messages. I get lots of those messages, and I think it's important to differentiate between a good LinkedIn message and a bad LinkedIn message. And what are your chances of getting information interview out of it? Next slide, please. So I had two individuals who reached out to me some time ago with two messages. I'm going to share it. We share it on our screen. I'm going to read it out loud, and then you're going to tell me, using your Menti, which one you think I met for an information interview. So the first one, obviously I changed their names, so it's anonymous. Hi, Natalia. My name is Sarah, and I'm from London, Ontario. I'm currently looking at youth employment organizations in Toronto as I want to be a youth career practitioner there. I came across your LinkedIn profile when I was looking for current opportunities at Tropicana. Do you have any jobs available at Tropicana right now? Sarah. Okay, next slide. Good evening, Natalia. As a recent university graduate, I'm excited to develop my skill set within employment counseling. After reading your profile, I would love the opportunity to connect with you over coffee to learn more about your approach to employment counseling. I'm moving to Toronto in the near future, and I was looking for some advice about this industry in Toronto. I look forward to speaking with you. Sincerely, Katie. Okay, next slide. So which one got an information interview? You got it. Most of you got it. Yep, Katie, that's correct. She wasn't direct. She wasn't asking me for a job. And she asked just for 15 minutes of my time. It was a Sunday. We met at Starbucks. It was prior to pandemic. It ended up with a 2-hour conversation because it was so interesting. She was so polished and professional. Actually, a week later, she emailed me back saying she got a job. So even though I told her I'm going to submit your resume to my management because I really liked you, I didn't even have time to do it because she found a job right away. And I'm sure she found a job because of how professional she was, because of all the connections she made. So that's the way to go. Next slide, please. So how do we connect? If you choose a cold calling as your another method, and some of you might be terrified to think about phone calls because we're only using WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, just messaging people. Nowadays, we're not really using a phone. Yes, it's going to be shocking to you, but it's also shocking to the employer, right? Because nobody's really reaching out by cold calling, just individuals who are very, very serious and motivated and want to use all possible tools for job searching. So you're actually going to stand out from the crowd. So if you choose to use cold calling as your method of trying to make new connections, you have to make sure that you have some type of script for your first couple of calls, or maybe at least some notes that you have for yourself. Make sure your introduction to them, it's not longer than 15, maybe 30 seconds max, because again, people are busy. So you want to make sure you respect their time and you get straight to the point. So make sure you have some introduction about yourself. Tell them about your goals. So which is the industry you're interested in? Why are you reaching out to them? Because they're probably an industry expert in a specific, place of work where you want to target. Mention a snapshot of your experience. So if you're a new grad, mention that. Ask for an information interview. So just say that you are looking for a quick meeting over Zoom, or maybe after pandemic for a quick coffee chat. If you're worrying that you're going to be burning people who are very busy, remember that good employers, if you remember the pyramid that we were looking at, good employers are always trying to look within their contacts first, right? So a good employer is always going to keep the radar for good potential employees. So a good employer will say yes to you, right? And if they say no, or they're rude to you or something, do you really want to work for that employer? You need to think about that as well. Make sure you talk for about 15 seconds. Be energetic, smile when you talk, because it's going to automatically make your voice sound more, happy and energetic. People like it. Make sure you research the company, because you want to make the conversation relevant to them as well. And on your screen, you can actually see an actual example that my colleague Linda provided. And it actually led, this cold call that she made, actually led her to an information interview, to volunteer work, and then progress to contract work, part-time, and then full-time opportunity. So that's actually a real example on your screen. By the way, if anybody needs any templates or suggestions from us, give us a call or email us, and we can provide all the resources from that webinar. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I think it's important to reflect why people are so afraid from calls, especially cold calls, because you are calling to a stranger, right? You never met with this person before. So there are a few reasons behind this fear, and as humans, it's natural to us to fear from rejection, that the person is going to say no to us, from failure, or the unknown, right? We don't know what's going to happen, and that's the base for the fear. So we're afraid that someone is going to be super annoyed with us, be mean to us, or want to respond in a way that we want them to respond. So there's an acronym actually that sums it up really well, and you can see it on your screen. Fear is a false emotion appearing real. So you need to understand that all your fears it's inside your head. It's not really real. And two questions that you need to ask yourself to kind of calm yourself down is, what's the worst that can happen? They're gonna reject you, but then another person from another cold call is gonna say yes to you. So, you know, it's just reaching out and see who will say yes. And like I said, if they're rude or if they're saying to you, you know, I don't have time, do you really want to work for that employer? And, you know, sometimes people just have a bad day or they're so busy. You know, if you hear that they just busy, they're not being rude, but they're saying, I'm so sorry, I'm swamped with work. Do we have another time? Always use this opportunity and say, of course, I'm going to send you an email. We can connect some other time when, you know, you sort out everything with your work. So just see those opportunities that you can have from those cold calls. And also during pandemic, a lot of people are motivated to do good in the world and help each other. So now it's a good time to make cold calls because people are isolated, first of all, and second of all, we're more open to helping. And another question you might ask yourself, what's the best that can happen? We don't really think about those opportunities from that standpoint, but what you can get a friendship, you can get a really good connection, you might get a job out of it, like Linda did in the previous cold call example. So there's so many opportunities that we're missing just because of this fear that we have for the unknown. Next slide, please. So what is an information interview? You reach out to someone, you email them or call them, and now you have to make an information interview with them. So it is a meeting that you arrange and lead. So you are the one who asks questions, not them. So you don't feel interrogated, you're actually asking them questions. It's an informal conversation. So if you compare it to a real job interview, you know, we're all nervous, we prepare for it. It's more like an informal conversation, and that's how you need to treat it while still staying professional, obviously. It's an opportunity to get insights from experts. We already covered that a bit. So you're going to get information about, you know, some jobs that might be booming right now in the market and you didn't know about that. It's a chance to learn about if you're a good fit for the industry or for that specific job. It's not a job interview, so don't treat it like that. And it's a chance to add to your network because from this connection, you're like planting a seed, and then it might bloom to something really great, like a job offer. Or maybe they're going to refer you somewhere else. Next slide, please. Thanks. So how do we conduct an information interview? So first of all, prepare your questions ahead of time. If you're not sure where to look, where to find those information interview questions, reach out to us. We have a bunch of lists that we can share with you guys. Study labor market. You want to make sure that your conversation with, you know, your new connection is informative. You want to show them that you're aware of some trends, that you're, you know, you're knowledgeable. And also learn about industry leaders, learn about the person that you're meeting with, look at their LinkedIn profile if there's any information about them. Make sure you bring a notepad and pen, write down the responses. If you do that, you are going to show that, you know, what they're saying is very important for you. And if you have your own business card, even if you just graduated and you have a business card with your name, you know, and contact info, great. You know, you're going to show yourself as a polished professional. Obviously, right now we can't really do it because everything is on Zoom. But even if you're on Zoom, leave them with your contact info, right? Leave them with your phone number, email information, just to show that you want to keep that connection going. Make sure that you send them a thank you email to say, what did you find useful about your conversation? Next slide, please. Thanks. So again, we're using our Menti. Type the code on the screen. And I want to see what are some questions that you might ask at an informational interview. Let's share some ideas. I have some in mind, obviously, because I did it myself. But I don't want to share it with you. I want to see what you guys are thinking. So just type your responses. You can type multiple questions as well. What does a day look like in this role? Perfect. What else? What are you looking for currently in a new hire? What is the common promotion route? Good, amazing questions. What are good characteristics in an employee here? How did you get into this field? What do you expect in future employees? Amazing questions. What skills do you value in this role? Great. What are my potentials to be hired? Based on the resume, I'm assuming. Anything else? Let's look at the last question, if we have any. Is there growth in this field position? Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone who submitted their responses. Great ideas. How did you come to get into this career? Perfect. That's how you probably should start the information interview. How can I improve my skills? What can I do to improve my potential? Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Amazing questions. Next slide. Last but not the least, how to introduce yourself if you end up going to a networking event or a Zoom conference or a professional development and you meet someone that you want to network with. So there's a popular concept that is called an elevator pitch. And I'm sure some of you might heard about it before. And it's basically a concept, you know, what would you say to someone who could help you in your career if you got in an elevator with them and you have only a few seconds of their time while the elevator is taking you to another floor? So you probably maybe have like 10, 15 seconds, right? So make sure you're concise. So your intro should be very short, no longer than 15 seconds, clear. So you avoid using jargon, just use, you know, simple words, include a hook. So some part of your intro that catches listeners' attention and they want to know more about you. And obviously you should include who you are. So like your name, who you are, like a graduated student from this program, or maybe you're working somewhere. So that's what you're going to say. And what you do. So keep it simple, what exactly you're currently doing. And what is so unique about you? What benefit do you bring? Right? And if you need a template for your elevator pitch, let us know as well. We have it as a template. So please let us know and we can provide you with some tips on building your short speech. It's like, you know, a note that you're putting in your pocket. A couple of times you're going to try to, you know, be very scripted because you want to make sure you cover everything. But with time and with all your new networking skills, you're going to practice it more. And then if you go anywhere, it's going to get so much easier. Next slide, please. Okay, so the last question for today. What do you think are some of the top skills that employers are looking for in light of the pandemic? I have the responses, the actual you know, words on my screen right now, but I want to see what you guys are thinking. What are some top skills that employers want to see on your resume or at the information interview? Effective. So your effectiveness. What else? Adaptability, flexible hours. Whoa, how many responses? Effective, adaptable, time management, communication, adaptability, teamwork, passion. Definitely, we need some passion working from home. Teamwork, flexibility, I see it a lot. Adaptability, definitely. So while those responses are coming in, again, from the Forbes article, some top skills that employers are looking for are adaptability, flexibility, communication, organization, creativity, teamwork, leadership, critical thinking, problem solving. And the thing is, if you're using those alternative methods of job searching, like cold calling or cold emailing or asking for information interviews, you're actually practicing all these skills because you're showing initiative and leadership by, you know, taking a step forward and actually asking them for information interview. You're showing that you're flexible if you can, you know, lead an informal conversation. You're showing your adaptability as well. You're adapting to situation. You're not just stuck in online job searching. So you're showing all these skills that you have to potential employers or people who can refer you to potential employers. So it's very important to remember, you know, when you're job searching. Next slide, please. So we're coming to an end of our presentation, and I would like to leave you with a a proverb by Brené Brown that seems very appropriate to this webinar, the topic that we covered. And it goes like that. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. I'm sure everyone will understand the idea behind it, that it's always better to have connections because it's going to lead you to better opportunities. Okay. Last slide, please. Okay, so if you have any questions, we can start taking out some questions. And if you need any resources or coaching on networking, please reach out to Career Services. We have 2 email addresses for Yorkville University students, careerservices@yorkvilleu.ca. And if you're a Toronto Film School student, please reach out to us at careerservices@torontofilmschool.ca. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure presenting to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Natalia. I'm just going to stop share so that it's easier to see the questions. Okay, there we go. So Natalia, one student is asking, or one participant is asking, if you can review some of the possible questions for informational interviews again.
Yes, I can actually share it. If we have a minute, I can actually share something. Action plan. Okay. So actually have a tool that we're going to be sharing. Share screen. So some of the questions that you can ask a mentor or a person that you're making an information interview with: were you always interested in this field? How did your career path go? Things like, what are your daily responsibilities? Because they're going to tell you exactly what is expected of you every day at work, right? How did you get your first job? That's a very important question to ask, because they are actively working in the field. So that means they somehow got in there, right? So that's a good question to ask them. What do you like about your job? What do you hate about your job? What is most challenging, right? So things like that you can ask people. Obviously, don't ask them questions like, do you have benefit package? How much are you making? Because that's not something that you can ask. But all the other questions around their education or about their job, feel free asking them. And we're more than happy to share some of the questions with you as well if you reach out to Career Services. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, we've had that. We just had that in the chat as well. And so the answer to that is absolutely. We're more than happy to share that resource with you. Please email careerservices@yorkvilleu.ca or careerservices@torontofilmschool.ca, or both, or pick one. It doesn't really matter. It'll get to the team here, and we'd be happy to share that with you. Oh, so Natalia, this is an interesting question. So in your example about the Sarah and Katie with the request for the informational interview, you mentioned that Katie got the interview. So they're wondering, some people are wondering, how did you respond to Sarah?
So actually, I just asked her to go on Tropicana Career Services website and check the jobs there. And I left it at that. I was very polite and professional about it, but the way this message came across, like, do you have any job available? I don't know this person. This is the first time I see a message from this person. And I thought, it's not really professional. So I stayed professional myself. So I just directed her to our website, but I didn't spend time on an information interview with her.
Great, good, thanks. The other question that comes in is whether this information is applicable to minors who are currently seeking jobs within the pandemic.
That's a very good question. Well, minors, you mean like under 18? That's what they mean?
Mm-hmm. That's how I'm interpreting it, yeah.
It's a very slippery slope. So I would stay within your current, family, friends circle. I wouldn't really go and messaging random people on LinkedIn. Even when I was I was actually running a networks program in my previous job, and we had an age limit. So we were serving clients from 18 and up. So we couldn't do it because, there's rules around it. So for now, until you're 18 years old, maybe it's safer to stay, your school, teachers, parents, friends, something like that.
So the notion of nurturing your network and using your network to find work applies no matter your age. But, as Natalia is saying, not sure that I'd want my 15-year-old, for example, going on LinkedIn and that sort of stuff. So obviously, as parents, we have to be concerned about internet safety and those sorts of things. But there's absolutely no reason why, youth under 18 can't be taught to to work their network, to put up posters in the local grocery store offering babysitting services and stuff like that. That's kind of what it's about. This whole session is really looking to where work is being, that exchange of labor, that employer hiring someone that is not waiting until the employer has exhausted every other opportunity to find an employee, and then they finally post it online on Indeed or something like that. If you can think about all of the stuff that happens for an employer to fill a position before they ever post it online, then and that's not 10.
Adrian's internet is cutting.
Is to create. I'm gone.
Are you still here? You're cutting.
I can take over and tell you some of the questions I've
seen. Go ahead.
Yeah, Deirdre, is that all right? Yeah, okay. So we have a question here. Should you worry about calling or emailing a person too much? How many follow-ups are considered too much if you receive no response?
So I'll be honest with you, if they didn't respond to your email the first time and you follow up with them, don't follow up anymore. I would say twice. So if they don't respond, email them again, like telling them again, I just need 15 minutes of your time. I'm very impressed with your experience that I see on LinkedIn. It's very relevant to me. If they don't respond to you, 10 days after your second follow-up, just switch to somebody else. And don't just wait for one person, right? You're going to try to reach out to multiple individuals. And then trust me, few of those connections are going to end up with information interview. What else do we have in the chat?
There's another really great question here. How soon would you say it is appropriate to create connections and start networking?
How soon? I would say when you're starting, to look for jobs. So if you're 18 and you're looking for any type of a job, you should start networking. And it should be so natural for you to go out, meet people. We can do it even, if we go to a party and we meet someone that we kind of interact with and we talk to them about, you can ask them, where are you working, right? It should come natural. If you're working for a professional career job, make sure that you start looking for your connections. I would say when you start your university, because that's the place you're going to make so many connections with your profs, with other students. Like I said, we have a Facebook group with alumni from a master's program. We're still connecting in regards to jobs, right? So as soon as you start university, I would say it's a good start for networking for career job. I see another question. What do you think that can improve the level of professionalism in terms of a character? So how you dress up, how you communicate yourself. Don't use a lot of jargon words like, for example. I hear people a lot using it, and I sometimes use it myself. So try to stay away from those kind of things. The more you practice, the more you talk to people, the more you're going to get polished, right? Always remember, even if you're in a grocery store or in an elevator with someone, try to be friendly, try to be professional, because you never know where your new employer is going to, meet you. So always remember about that. And keep an eye on your social media as well. Make sure it's all private if it's your private profile. We are going to talk about it in another webinar, actually, in details. So I'm not going to go into that, but professionalism all the way through. Any other questions? Will this action plan be shared? So anything that you want to ask about after this workshop, please reach out to us and we're going to give you great ideas. There's plenty of informational interview questions online, but if you don't know where to look or you just want to talk to us about it, just reach out. Yeah.
Okay, so that's all the time we have for questions today. I just, on behalf of our entire team, want to thank everybody for participating. Natalia, you gave a fantastic webinar, just so full of rich information that's immediately useful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and please remember to email us at either careerservices@yorkvilleu.ca or careerservices@torontofilmschool.ca. And also remember that you can access this recorded version of the webinar on YouTube. So please join us for subsequent webinars. They're held every 2